That's right, a simple 2019 Lincoln penny, the kind you might still find jingling in your change, has shaken the entire coin collecting world. People are searching through their jars, drawers, and old wallets right now, because this unassuming little cent, with no mint mark, has a secret that could make its owner a millionaire. It all started quietly. 2019 was just another year for the US Mint. Billions of pennies struck and sent into circulation. Nothing out of the ordinary. Or so it seemed. But somewhere in that massive production line, something strange happened. A minting anomaly. A subtle, nearly invisible mistake that would change everything. At first, nobody noticed. These pennies slipped through coin counters, registers, and parking meters without a second thought. But when collectors began spotting unusual details, a faint doubling, a shifted design, a missing mint mark where one should have been, curiosity turned to disbelief. Because this wasn't just any missing letter. The no mint mark 2019 Lincoln penny carried microscopic traits suggesting it came from a test strike. Possibly an early batch struck before mint marks were applied, or even a unique die used for pre-production verification. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One sharp-eyed collector from Ohio, sorting through a box of rolled pennies he'd bought from a local bank, spotted something off. The coin's surface shimmered differently under the light, crisp, flawless, with a strange reflective sheen uncommon for circulation strikes. When he flipped it over, the absence of a mint mark caught his eye. He sent it off for authentication, expecting a small premium. But when the grading results came back, his hands shook. The expert's report confirmed it, a unique 2019 no mint mark Lincoln penny, struck in exceptional condition, likely one of the rarest modern errors ever found. Word spread like wildfire. Dealers were shocked. Collectors were frantic. How could a coin made just a few years ago be worth over $1 million? The answer lay in its rarity. Mint errors in modern times are rare enough, but a high-grade, uncirculated penny with no mint mark from 2019? Practically unheard of. Some experts believe it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint using experimental dies intended for testing coin presses, a process that was never meant to reach the public. Somehow, one slipped out, and it only takes one. Within months, coin forums were exploding with speculation. People began hoarding 2019 pennies, scouring every coin roll they could find. Dealers were offering hundreds, then thousands, just for the chance to examine a potential match. Then came the bombshell. At a private auction, one of these mysterious no mint mark 2019 pennies sold for over $1.5 million. The room went silent. Gasps. Whispers. The auctioneer's gavel came down, and collectors knew the modern coin market had just changed forever. Take a closer look, and I mean really close. Under magnification, some of these rare coins show doubling on Lincoln's year and the date, a subtle shadow effect caused by die misalignment during striking. The lettering, especially the "In God We Trust" motto, may appear thicker or slightly doubled. And the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial, can sometimes show signs of weak detail or uneven pressure. In 2019, most pennies were struck at either the Philadelphia or Denver Mint. Philadelphia pennies technically don't carry a mint mark, but the specific texture, finish, and strike characteristics of this rare variety are what set it apart. Most 2019 Philly strikes have faint marks or standard die lines. This one is razor sharp, with mirror-like fields, the kind of surface seen only on proof or early die-state coins. Collectors call it the phantom proof, a circulation coin with the soul of a collector's strike. But what's really wild is how close it came to disappearing forever. The man who found it said he almost dumped the roll back into a Coinstar machine after skimming through it. "It looked like every other penny," he said. "But something told me to check again." That moment, that tiny spark of curiosity, turned into a life-changing discovery worth $1.5 million. Think about that. One penny. Worth more than most houses. Coin historians began to investigate the anomaly. Some traced the error to a batch of test dies accidentally used for a short run before being replaced. Others suggested it was a press calibration issue that created a batch of coins with unusual strike pressure and luster. Whatever the cause, the rarity is undeniable. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. It's the kind of find that reminds us why we still check our change. Why, even in a digital world, something as small as a copper coin can hold the power to change someone's life overnight. But the story doesn't end there. After the $1 million sale, fake listings began popping up online. Scammers trying to pass off ordinary 2019 pennies as the real deal. That's why knowing what to look for is critical. If you've got a 2019 penny with no mint mark, inspect it carefully. Look for that distinct mirror-like surface, clean rims, and sharp strike, especially around Lincoln's beard, hair, and the lettering. Any doubling or proof-like reflectivity could indicate a special die strike. And don't clean the coin, ever. Cleaning can destroy its numismatic value instantly. Leave it as is and get it professionally graded by a reputable service like PCGS or NGC. Even a slightly lower grade version of this variety could fetch tens of thousands of dollars. The discovery has reignited the passion of collectors across America. Coin shows now buzz with people sharing stories, holding magnifying glasses under bright lights, hoping to catch a glimpse of that elusive shine. "This coin gives people hope," one dealer said. "It reminds us that treasures still exist, right in our pockets." And that's the magic of it all. Every time you get change at the grocery store or grab a handful of coins from your car cup holder, you're holding tiny pieces of history. Some are ordinary, but some, just like this 2019 no mint mark Lincoln penny, are extraordinary. Imagine walking into a coffee shop, paying with exact change, and realizing one of those pennies you just gave away could have been worth over $1 million. It's not just luck, it's awareness. The people who find these treasures are the ones who look closely, who take the extra second to check. So if you've got a jar full of pennies, tonight might be the night to go through them. Look for that 2019 date. Look for that missing mint mark. Check for that brilliant luster and double detail. Because while most of these coins are worth just 1 cent, a handful are worth a fortune, up to $1.5 million, to be exact. It looked like any other penny. Brown, dull, maybe even a little scratched from years of use. The kind you'd ignore on the sidewalk, or toss into a jar without a second thought. But this tiny coin, struck in 2007 with a D mint mark from Denver, hides a story that's turning the coin world upside down. Because one of these Lincoln pennies, believed to be ordinary pocket change, was found to be worth up to $1.6 million. And the reason why will leave you speechless. It all started when a collector in Colorado came across a penny that just didn't feel right. The color was off, almost golden under the light. The edges were sharper, the details unusually crisp. It wasn't until he placed it under a magnifying glass that he saw something strange, an error so small, it would go unnoticed by millions of people. But that tiny flaw was worth a fortune. Most 2007 D pennies were made from zinc coated with a thin layer of copper. But in an extraordinary twist of fate, a small batch was struck on leftover bronze planchets, the kind used decades earlier. Imagine that, an outdated metal blank accidentally fed into the Denver Mint's modern presses. The result? A coin born out of pure minting chaos, part of one era, printed in another. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When this era penny surfaced at auction, experts couldn't believe their eyes. The weight didn't match, the color didn't match, even the ring it made when dropped on a table was different. After days of testing and authentication, it was confirmed, a genuine transitional error. The kind of coin most collectors only dream about. And here's the kicker, the bidding war was fierce. Collectors from across the country battled over this penny like it was buried treasure. Prices climbed higher and higher until the hammer dropped at a jaw-dropping $1.6 million. Think about that for a second. A 1-cent coin that could pay off your mortgage, buy a new home, or change your life forever. The answer lies deep in the world of minting secrets, tiny mistakes that happen in fractions of a second. You see, every coin is struck with immense pressure between two dies. But if the wrong metal blank is used, or if a die from another year slips into the press, it can create an anomaly so rare that it becomes priceless. And that's exactly what makes this 2007 D penny so special. Most people think mint errors are easy to spot, off-center strikes, double dies, missing letters. But not this one. This one hides in plain sight. It looks normal, until you hold it just right under the light, and notice how the copper color is slightly deeper, the texture slightly different. It looked ordinary, until I heard it drop. That sound, it was different. Heavier. Richer. Dealers were shocked. Experts called it a once-in-a-generation find. And collectors? They were scrambling through their jars, boxes, and old coffee tins, hoping to uncover the same miracle. But here's where it gets even crazier. Some of these rare 2007 D pennies may still be out there, unnoticed. Mixed into circulation. Passed through cash registers, gas stations, or even your change from the grocery store. It's the kind of thought that keeps collectors awake at night. The idea that your next handful of change could hold $1 million secret. But what's even more fascinating is how unpredictable these discoveries are. The Denver Mint produced billions of pennies in 2007. Yet somehow, a few slip through the cracks, carrying the wrong composition or striking anomalies like doubled dies and misaligned strikes. These mistakes create subtle but valuable differences that the human eye can catch. If you know what to look for. So let's talk about that. If you want to know whether your 2007 D penny could be the one worth a fortune, start by grabbing a small scale. A normal 2007 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams, because it's made mostly of zinc. But the rare bronze transitional era weighs around 3.1 grams. That small difference could mean a payday beyond your imagination. Next, check the color under a bright light. The rare ones have a warmer, reddish-brown tone, more like the old pre-1982 pennies. And finally, take a close look at the date and mint mark under magnification. Some 2007 D pennies have faint doubling on the Liberty, or In God We Trust. Those doubled dies are worth thousands, and in pristine condition, potentially hundreds of thousands. But here's a twist few people know. One of the first $1 million 2007 D pennies was discovered not by a collector, but by a regular man sorting through a charity donation jar. He thought he was just helping count coins for a local fundraiser, until one penny caught his eye. It had a strange tone and looked almost brand new despite being from 2007. He pocketed it out of curiosity, and months later, a local coin dealer confirmed it was a major mint error. That man's ordinary afternoon turned into a life-changing day, and maybe, just maybe, your story could be next. Because hidden in those piles of loose change, in old drawers, glove compartments, or forgotten piggy banks, could be a tiny piece of history waiting to be rediscovered. A penny that defied the odds, and turned into pure gold for whoever found it. Most people will never notice. They'll spend it without a glance, unaware that they just handed over something worth millions. It's the ultimate modern treasure hunt, and it's happening in plain sight. Every year, new discoveries shake the numismatic world. And every time one surfaces, it reignites hope among collectors everywhere, that maybe the next big find is still out there, hidden among everyday coins. And the 2007 D penny proves it. A coin so small, so common, yet carrying a secret powerful enough to change a life. So before you toss that handful of pennies into a jar, take a closer look. Grab a magnifying glass, a scale, and some patience. Because the next $1 million coin isn't in a museum, it's in someone's pocket. So don't stop looking. Don't stop checking your change. Because one day, that dull, forgotten penny in your palm might turn out to be your $1 million miracle. A small, copper-colored penny from 1985, something you've probably seen thousands of times, has stunned the entire coin-collecting world. And the reason why? A microscopic mistake. A minting error so rare that it turned a 1-cent coin into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Imagine this: you're at the grocery store, buying your morning coffee. The cashier hands you some change. You toss it into your pocket, not realizing one of those coins, that unassuming 1985 D penny, could secretly be worth more than your house. But this story doesn't start at a checkout counter. It begins deep inside the Denver Mint in 1985. Machines were running at full speed, producing hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents. Copper-plated zinc planchets clattered, presses thundered, and coins spilled out like a river of red metal. Everything was business as usual, until something went wrong. Somewhere in that blur of machinery, a tiny imperfection slipped through, a double-struck die, a slight off-center press, or an unexpected blend in the metal composition. Nobody noticed. The flawed pennies mixed in with the rest, bagged, boxed, and shipped across America, and for decades they circulated quietly. Passed from hand to hand, pocket to pocket, never revealing their secret. But then, one day, a collector in Colorado stumbled upon something strange. He noticed his 1985 D penny didn't look quite right. The surface shimmered differently under the light. The D mint mark appeared slightly misplaced, and Lincoln's bust looked subtly doubled, like a faint shadow running alongside his profile. When he showed it to a local coin dealer, the dealer froze. "You might want to sit down," he said. "This could be something big." Experts later confirmed what no one expected. This wasn't an ordinary penny. It was an ultra-rare minting anomaly, a perfect storm of misaligned dies and unique striking pressure. A coin that technically shouldn't exist. And when it finally hit the auction block, bidders went wild. What started as a casual appraisal turned into a bidding war that ended with one jaw-dropping number: $1.7 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were calling it the discovery of the decade. And ever since that moment, the 1985 D Lincoln penny has become one of the most talked about coins in American numismatic history. The answer lies in the details. Most 1985 D pennies were struck on standard copper-plated zinc planchets. But in a few mysterious cases, a handful were accidentally struck using leftover copper planchets, the same kind used before 1982. That means these coins are heavier, richer in color, and resonate with a deeper metallic tone when dropped. Now, that's not the only clue. Some of these rare 1985 D pennies display a double die obverse, meaning Lincoln's features, particularly his eye, lips, and the word Liberty, appears slightly doubled under magnification. This doubling effect happens when the die shifts slightly between strikes, and it's one of the most sought-after errors in coin collecting. And here's where it gets wild. Some experts believe that even fewer than 10 of these error coins may exist in top condition. That's rarer than many gold coins, rarer than most silver dollars, and almost mythical in the world of Lincoln cents. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After that first $1 million sale, word spread fast. Collectors across the country began raiding their old jars, boxes, and albums. Pawn shops saw a flood of 1985 pennies being tested, weighed, and examined. For weeks, it felt like a modern-day gold rush, except the treasure was hiding in plain sight, disguised as pocket change. And here's the craziest part: more discoveries followed. Another collector from Texas found one with a visible die clash mark behind Lincoln's head, a ghostly outline of the reverse design showing through. Experts graded it at MS-68 red, almost flawless, and estimated its potential worth at nearly $800,000. Still, the original $1 million specimen remains the crown jewel, the one coin that proved miracles can happen even in modern minting. The mid-1980s were a transitional period for the U.S. Mint. The move from solid copper to zinc-coated planchets was still relatively fresh, and equipment was being recalibrated. Tiny misalignments, temperature fluctuations, and leftover materials sometimes led to unexpected results. The Denver Mint, in particular, was running massive production numbers, over 5 billion pennies that year, and in that chaos, a few magical mistakes were born. Now, let's pause for a second. Think about it. Over 5 billion 1985 D pennies were struck, and maybe a handful, literally just a few, are worth a life-changing fortune. That's like winning the rarest lottery in American coin history. And that's what makes this story so powerful. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. A coin he almost spent on a cup of coffee turned into a treasure that changed his life forever. Collectors everywhere were inspired. Forums lit up. Videos, articles, and Reddit threads exploded with questions. Could my 1985 D penny be the one? How do I check for the error? What does it look like? So let's talk about how you can find out. First, grab any 1985 penny with a D mint mark, that tiny letter below the date. That D stands for Denver. Place it on a digital scale. A normal zinc penny should weigh 2.5 grams. But if yours weighs around 3.1 grams, you might be holding one of the rare copper planchet errors. Next, use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe to inspect Lincoln's profile and the lettering. Look especially at Liberty, in God We Trust, and the date, 1985. If you see any doubling, ghosting, or faint overlapping lines, that's a strong sign of a double die strike. Also, check the color. True copper planchets have a warmer, reddish tone compared to the duller, brighter look of zinc coins. Under natural light, copper coins glow slightly, zinc ones don't. Finally, pay attention to the sound. A simple drop test on a hard surface can help. A copper penny makes a clear, ringing ting. Zinc ones make a flat, quick tink. It's a small difference, but collectors swear by it. If you think you've found something special, do not clean the coin. Cleaning can destroy its value instantly. Instead, take it to a professional grader, like PCGS or NGC, for authentication. A certified label can multiply your coin's market value overnight. Even if your coin isn't the $1 million variety, some 1985 D pennies with minor doubling or high mint state conditions still sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Every discovery counts. Every coin tells a story. So before you toss that handful of pennies into a jar or a parking meter, stop. Look closely. Because that small, forgotten piece of change could hold a secret fortune. The 1985 D Lincoln penny reminds us that treasures don't always come in gold or silver. Sometimes, they hide in plain sight, in something so ordinary, you'd never suspect it's worth $1 million. So check your change. Search your drawers. Look through those dusty jars sitting on your shelf, because the next 1985 D penny worth $1.70 million could be sitting right in your pocket. And if you want to keep uncovering hidden gems like this, subscribe to this channel. Every week, we reveal the secrets behind America's most valuable coins and the stories that turn pocket change into priceless history. It's the 1996 D Lincoln penny, a coin so ordinary, most people wouldn't give it a second glance. But one small, nearly invisible flaw turned it into one of the most valuable modern U.S. coins ever discovered, worth up to $1.8 million. You're cleaning out an old drawer, sorting through a pile of loose change, when you notice something, a faint detail that doesn't look quite right. You hold it closer to the light, and your heart starts racing. Could this be it? Could this be the coin collectors whisper about? The 1996 D-era penny that changed lives? But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's go back to where this story begins. The year was 1996. The Denver Mint was running at full steam, producing billions of Lincoln cents. The machines were hot, the dies were under pressure, and the goal was quantity, not perfection. Somewhere in that chaos, something unusual happened. A minting die, used to stamp the image of Abraham Lincoln onto the blank copper-plated zinc discs, suffered a microscopic shift. To the human eye, it was almost undetectable. But when that die struck the coin, a unique flaw was born. A doubled image, a distorted D, or in some cases, a faint misalignment that made Lincoln's profile look slightly off. Most of these flawed coins were caught, melted, and replaced. But a few slipped through the cracks. They were bagged, boxed, and shipped out into circulation, scattered across America like tiny golden tickets waiting to be found. And that's where the legend began. For years, nobody noticed. The 1996 D penny blended right in, tossed into pockets, spent at gas stations, dropped between couch cushions. Until one collector, in the early 2000s, spotted something strange. The D mint mark looked thicker, like it had been struck twice. The lettering around the rim was ever so slightly stretched. He sent it to be graded. And what came back shocked everyone. The coin was real, an authentic 1996 D minting error, and its condition was nearly flawless. It sold for a life-changing sum, somewhere north of $1.80 million. That's right. Somewhere, In old penny jars and forgotten coffee cans might lie another one of these $1 million mistakes. And what makes this even crazier is how hard it is to spot. Collectors who've seen the coin up close describe it as subtle but mesmerizing. The D mint mark, instead of being crisp and centered, appears slightly thicker on one side, a sign of a die doubling. On some versions, Lincoln's profile shows faint ghosting, almost like a shadow version of his nose or jaw. But there's one telltale clue that separates the real deal from lookalikes: the lettering on Liberty. On the valuable 1996 D error, the letters appear stretched, almost bubbled. It's not something you can fake easily, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After news broke about the $1 million sale, collectors everywhere began tearing through their change. Pawn shops saw a sudden flood of 1996 pennies. Metal detectors buzzed across parks and fields. Everyone wanted in on the hunt. Some found near-miss varieties, minor errors that sold for hundreds, even thousands. A few found coins with die cracks, off-center strikes, and odd plating anomalies. But that one perfect coin, the one graded near mint, with flawless doubling and that magical D, remains one of the most mysterious finds in modern coin history. And yet, the story doesn't end there. In recent years, more reports have surfaced of strange 1996 D pennies appearing at local shows and online auctions. Some experts claim there are a few sister coins, struck from the same flawed die but showing slightly different pressure marks. If authenticated, those could each fetch hundreds of thousands, or even break the $1 million barrier again. Finding a 1996 D error like this is like finding lightning in a bottle. It's rare, unpredictable, but when it hits, it changes everything. Imagine that. A single penny, the smallest coin in your pocket, capable of rewriting your life. It's the ultimate underdog story. And what makes it so incredible is that it could happen to anyone. Maybe your grandparent has an old jar of coins in the attic. Maybe your childhood piggy bank still hides a few pre-2000 pennies. You could be holding a fortune without even realizing it. Collectors were shocked when they saw how much one of these coins fetched. Dealers began rushing to get their hands on any high-grade 1996 D penny they could find, just in case lightning struck twice. The difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth $1 million often comes down to condition and precision. If you suspect you've got a rare one, don't clean it. Don't polish it. Don't even rub it with your fingers. Handle it gently by the edges and take clear, close-up photos. Then compare it to certified examples from major grading services like PCGS or NGC. If the D looks doubled, if Lincoln's face shows faint shadowing, or if the letters of Liberty seem a little off, get that coin appraised immediately. Because here's the truth: 1996 wasn't a year known for errors. The mint had nearly perfected its modern processes. So when something slipped through, it was rare, truly rare. And rarity drives value. That's why collectors are still obsessed with this coin nearly 3 decades later. The next time you get change at the store, don't just toss those pennies aside. Check the date. Look closely under Lincoln's portrait for that tiny D. Examine every curve, every shine, every small imperfection. Because one of those little copper coins could hold a secret worth $1.8 million. And here's a story to remember. A man in Texas once found one of the rarest pennies ever while counting coins with his daughter. It had a small misprint he almost ignored. But something told him to hold on to it. 2 months later, after professional grading, that worthless penny was valued at more than his entire car. That's the magic of coin collecting, a mix of luck, history, and sharp eyes. This isn't just about money. It's about mystery. It's about how something as small as a penny can carry decades of hidden history, and reward the people patient enough to notice. So the next time someone tells you pennies are worthless, smile. Because somewhere out there, a penny from 1996 with a D mint mark is quietly waiting to make someone a millionaire. But this 1973 D Lincoln penny almost ended up in the trash before someone realized it was worth nearly $1 million. There could be another one sitting in your change right now. This story isn't about luck. It's about a coin that shouldn't even exist the way it does. A coin born from a rare minting mistake, a bit of history, and a whole lot of mystery. So before you spend another penny, listen closely, because the next one you find might just change your life forever. Back in 1973, the U.S. Mint was in full swing. Millions of Lincoln pennies poured out of the Denver Mint, each one a tiny piece of American routine. Copper coins clinking into cash registers, pockets, and jars across the country. Nothing special. Or so everyone thought. But somewhere inside that mint, among the roar of the presses and the blur of production, something went wrong. A die was misaligned. A design slightly off. And a few coins, very few, left the building with hidden imperfections that would later make them worth a fortune. Collectors call them the 1973 Lincoln penny errors, and they're the stuff of legend. At first glance, they look perfectly ordinary. Lincoln's familiar face, the "In God We Trust" motto, and that tiny D under the date. But under magnification, you might see it, a doubling on the date, or even on Lincoln's profile. Some show a faint doubling on the word Liberty, or the motto itself. Those small imperfections are what separate a 1-cent coin from a 1-in-a-million treasure. One man from Colorado learned this the hard way. He'd been collecting coins since childhood, mostly out of habit. One day, while sorting through a box of old change his father left behind, he found a 1973 penny that caught his eye. Nothing seemed special until he noticed the mint mark looked slightly off, almost like it had been punched twice. He thought it was just a trick of the light, until he put it under a microscope. The D was doubled. The date, too. His hands started shaking. Could it be? He sent it to the professional coin grading service for authentication. Weeks later, the call came. "You might want to sit down for this." It was real, and at auction, that same penny stunned the coin world when it sold for close to $1 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were scrambling. News outlets ran headlines about a penny worth more than a house. But what happened next made things even stranger. As word spread, treasure hunters everywhere began combing through their jars of old change. People lined up at pawn shops with magnifying glasses and Ziploc bags full of pennies, hoping lightning would strike twice. And then, another surfaced. Not identical, but close. This one showed doubling on Lincoln's eye and the inscription. Experts confirmed it was a 1973 doubled die obverse, one of the rarest in circulation. The discovery reignited the fire. Collectors whispered about hidden errors, off-center strikes, even transitional planchets that slipped past the mint's quality control. Some speculated that a few 1973 pennies were mistakenly struck on leftover bronze planchets from earlier years, instead of the intended brass composition. Those tiny differences, unseen to the naked eye, are what make these coins so unbelievably valuable. But here's where it gets interesting. Not all 1973 pennies are worth a fortune. In fact, most are still just worth 1 cent. The key lies in spotting the details. The mint mark, D, under the date should be crisp and centered. If it appears doubled, faintly shadowed, or looks like it's been punched twice, you could be holding something special. Also, check the date itself, 1973. Look closely at the 3. If it appears slightly thicker or has a shadow edge, it could indicate doubling. Flip the coin over. Examine the Lincoln Memorial. Some rare era coins show doubling on the columns or the words United States of America. And of course, condition is everything. Even a tiny scratch can reduce its value dramatically. But if you've got one in near mint condition, with full details and that unmistakable doubling, you could be sitting on a fortune. What makes the 1973 penny story so powerful is that it captures the imagination of every collector. Because it reminds us that something so small, something we touch every day, could hold unimaginable value. Think about it. A penny that costs more than a luxury car. A piece of copper that can change someone's life. That's not just a coin. That's history hiding in plain sight. And the truth is, we still don't know how many of these rare 1973 errors are out there. Some believe fewer than a dozen exist in high grades. Others think there could be a small handful still lost in circulation, quietly waiting to be discovered. In that old coffee tin. That forgotten drawer. That childhood piggy bank. You see, The magic of coin collecting isn't just in the coins themselves, it's in the stories they tell. The human moments they connect to, the thrill of turning over a coin and realizing you're holding a piece of the past worth more than gold. Every 1973 penny tells a story of craftsmanship, error, and luck colliding in one tiny copper disc. The next person to find one of these could be you, because these coins didn't vanish. They didn't disappear into museums or vaults. Most are still out there, hidden among billions of ordinary pennies. So here's what you do. When you get your change back at the grocery store, check every penny. Grab a magnifying glass. Look for the D mint mark under the date, and inspect it for doubling or distortion. Look at Lincoln's face, the words, and the edges. Anything that seems just slightly off might be worth investigating. And if you think you've found something, don't clean it. Don't polish it. Just place it in a protective sleeve and take it to a certified coin dealer or grading service. Because even if it's not the $1 million one, a genuine 1973 double die or off-metal error can still fetch thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, depending on condition. Collectors are still talking about that Colorado discovery. How a penny sitting in a dusty jar turned into a life-changing payday. The world's most valuable treasures don't always shine. Sometimes, they're hiding in plain sight, in your pocket, waiting for the right person to notice. The 1973 Lincoln penny is proof of that. A humble coin, a tiny mistake, and $1 million miracle that still has the coin world buzzing to this day. So the next time you hold a penny, take a second look. Because the one you're about to spend might be the key to your biggest discovery yet. And who knows, the next person to make headlines for finding $1 million penny could be watching this video right now. It's valued at over $1.1 million. Yes, you heard that right. A simple 1984 Lincoln penny, a coin millions of Americans have held in their hands, could secretly be worth a fortune. The story behind this little copper treasure is one of mystery, luck, and an error so small that most people will never see it, but collectors would give anything to find it. Imagine paying for your morning coffee, handing over a penny that looks just like any other, and later discovering you just gave away a coin that could have changed your entire life. It all begins in 1984, at the Denver Mint. The U.S. Mint was striking billions of Lincoln cents, each stamped with the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. But somewhere in the chaos of production, a mistake happened, a tiny, nearly invisible doubling on Lincoln's face. To the untrained eye, the coin looks completely normal. But under magnification you can see it, the faint doubling on Lincoln's ear. It's what collectors now call the double-ear penny. One simple misalignment in the minting process transformed this everyday coin into a collector's dream. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At first, no one noticed. For months, maybe years, these double-die coins slipped into circulation, tossed into jars, pockets, and piggy banks all across America. People used them for laundry, parking meters, even vending machines. And yet, buried in all that change was a small group of pennies that would one day make history. It wasn't until a sharp-eyed collector spotted something strange, a second outline on Lincoln's ear, that the truth came out. Word spread quickly through the numismatic community. Dealers were shocked. Forums exploded with speculation. Everyone wanted to know how many existed, and more importantly, if they had one sitting in their collection. One man even claimed he found his 1984 penny in a roll of change from his local bank. He thought it was nothing special, until he took a closer look. That single roll, worth just 50 cents, turned into a $1 million discovery. But here's where things get even more fascinating. Most 1984 pennies are worth only face value. A single cent. But if you find one with the doubling on Lincoln's ear, crisp, clear, and unmistakable, you could be holding a coin worth tens of thousands of dollars, or in pristine condition, up to $1.1 million at auction. Collectors say this coin represents one of the most dramatic examples of how tiny minting errors can change everything. It's not just a mistake, it's a piece of American history, frozen in metal. Imagine the journey of one of these pennies. Struck by accident, sent out with millions of others, jostled around in cash drawers and pockets for decades. Some were lost, some destroyed, And some are still out there, waiting for someone like you to find them. And here's the real twist. This doubling doesn't just appear on any 1984 penny. You specifically need the 1984D, with the Denver Mint mark just below the date. Without that D, it's an entirely different story. That tiny letter makes all the difference. Dealers have called it one of the most underappreciated Lincoln cents of the modern era. And because it's still being discovered in circulation from time to time, hope is alive. Every new find sparks a wave of excitement, and sends collectors racing to check their coin jars. At a major U.S. coin auction, a flawless 1984D double-ear penny sold for an eye-watering price, over $1 million. The audience was stunned. Some thought it was a fluke, others thought it was a new benchmark for modern-era coins. Either way, it set off a national hunt. Collectors were digging through their old change. Pawn shops saw a rush of people asking to have their pennies checked. Even longtime dealers couldn't believe how much attention this single coin was getting. But here's what most people don't know: not every doubling on Lincoln's ear is valuable. Some are machine doubling, caused by vibration, and those are worth almost nothing. The true $1 million version has a very specific look. Lincoln's earlobe appears doubled, with clear separation that doesn't blur into the rest of the design. Under magnification, you can actually see two distinct outlines of the ear. That's your key. That's what makes all the difference between a penny that's worth 1 cent and one that's worth over $1 million. But there's more. Some of these rare pennies have also shown stronger details on Lincoln's eye and jawline. Tiny clues that tell you the die used to strike them had shifted during minting. These microscopic signs of imperfection are what turn an ordinary coin into a jackpot. And while experts estimate only a handful of perfect specimens exist, no one truly knows how many are still out there. It's the uncertainty, the thrill of possibility, that keeps collectors searching. You open an old coin jar that's been sitting on your shelf for years. You start sifting through it, not expecting much. And then, under the right light, you see it, that faint, mysterious doubling on Lincoln's ear. You grab a magnifying glass, your heart starts pounding, and suddenly, you realize you might be holding one of the rarest modern pennies in existence. Collectors who've found these coins say the moment feels surreal, like striking gold, but in the most unexpected way. Because it's not about digging through ancient treasure or pirate chests, it's about finding something extraordinary hiding in the most ordinary place. And it's not just luck. It's attention, patience, and curiosity. Every time you look at your change, you have a chance to discover history. That's what makes coin collecting so magical. It's not about how old a coin is, it's about what story it tells and what secrets it hides. The 1984D Lincoln penny tells a story of human error, of perfection gone slightly wrong, and of how that tiny mistake became a $1 million miracle. So the next time you get change back at the grocery store, take a second look. Look closely at the date. Find the D mint mark. Then, study Lincoln's ear carefully. If you see even the faintest sign of doubling, don't spend it, hold on to it. You could be holding your ticket to a life-changing discovery. And remember, it's not the shine or the color that matters most, it's the detail. Because the secret to this coin's value is hiding right where most people never look. Every collector dreams of finding that one coin that changes everything. For some, it's a silver dollar. For others, it's a rare wheat cent. But for you, it could be a simple 1984D penny that's been waiting for decades to be noticed. Collectors are still searching, dealers are still amazed, and the legend of the 1984D double-ear penny continues to grow.